What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Before the Whistle, presented by BRK Insurance Group. If your business is looking for the best in employee benefits, commercial property and casualty insurance, or retirement and 401k plan services, there's no one better suited to meet your challenges and build a plan centered around your needs than BRK Insurance Group. What's going on, y'all? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another edition again of Before the Whistle. I'm your host, Maddy, and I'm continuing my trend now of having these Tulane guys on as we're getting ready for Pro Day coming up this Tuesday, the 26th. I did attend practice earlier. You see the same general competition. I know that there are so many questions to answer about this current team, but they're now on spring break. So while they take their break, I'm taking my time to go back to these guys that I've covered. And while they've technically moved on, we still are following along with their draft stories and having Tulane's Pro Day be this Tuesday, March 26th, beginning at 8 a.m., having just a laundry list of these guys going on to the draft. It's very exciting for me to just be able to see them all one last time. But this podcast has really given me such a great opportunity to get to know these guys as people and talk to some of these guys that don't always get the first name headline buzz and get invited to these showcases, but still are very valuable guys looking forward to the draft. And no one better exemplifies that again than cornerback AJ Hampton, where he's someone that I've only known for a year, but I already just feel super close with him. He's just such a kind, jovial guy. And it's really just a sense you get with all of these Tulane players. But from my first conversation with him, I could just tell that he really knew what he was talking about. That, when he says he does film study and talks about tendencies, he really lives what he says there. And I learned things in this conversation that we had about how he really was such an asset to his teammates on the sideline. It was things that I would see during games. I would note them in several sideline reports for that matter, but just really learning about that true interplayer coaching that was going on there. But he was always someone to me that, it's very easy to get your head in the game when you're the starting cornerback and you head into the matchup and the first snap, you're out there running. It's an entirely different thing to come in, play on certain packages, play depending on what the wide receiver set is. And oftentimes when someone was hurt, when Jarius Monroe had a stretch of an injury throughout this year, he really came in those moments. But some guys just don't have that ability to stop and start and can get dejected by the fact that they're not playing every snap. And as I said, when he wasn't on the field, he was doing something incredibly valuable off the field with one of his teammates. But when on the field, he would make plays. And there's going to be times where you don't have a great game. You're not prepared for an offense. We talked about the North Texas game last year where they just kind of got off to this running start, and it's easy for defenses to kind of lose the plot. I've seen losses in the past where the game starts off really hot for the other offense, and just the mental aspect of the game and being able to remain steadfast, I'd seen it slip away a few times in some of those losses, but he just continued to work through. And that's really the nature of the cornerback position. You have to be able to have a short-term memory, and having the competition that he played against at Northwestern coming over from the Big Ten, could just feel that air of calmness with him. And he was never too afraid of the moment. And I was just really excited for him to be able to play in the Military Bowl and really just have a chance to enjoy the game, get out there one last time with these guys, play for a lot of the coaches that he came to love, and really finish out this culture that every guy that has transferred over just really can see immediately. But I really have to credit these defensive backs for the immediate just culture and brotherhood that they all have amongst one another. It really has grown that group. You think about Jarius Monroe, how he talked about his official visit and talking with guys. Then, you hear Lance Robinson, how he hosted Jarius Monroe. Then AJ Hampton comes over here, and you see that translate onto the field just as much. And as much as the run defense last year got all of this credit, Tulane has these real cover corner guys coming out, and AJ's one of them. And I enjoyed breaking all that down with him on today's show. But just to kind of start things off, what was really your process of coming over to Tulane?
Yeah, no, kind of my thought process when I was leaving Northwestern, because I kind of got my undergrad there. So, really prestigious school. And I was thinking for me, like, always kind of thinking ahead. Like the 40-year plan is kind of something my old coach used to tell me at Northwestern. And Tulane is just as much up there in academics as any other school. So that was one thing that kind of intrigued my mind early on. And then the fact of kind of being closer to home at the time, which my family was in Tallahassee, because my dad is a football coach and, we kind of tend to move every 2 years. But right now, he's actually the head coach at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. So, you know, so they're probably going to get ready to move. Brothers going to go to Clemson. It's a lot of moving parts. But yeah, no. So at the time for me, it was just definitely being a little bit closer to home. And then obviously like seeing the year they had before I was there, literally beautiful team, the culture, and then kind of meeting some of the players like in December, like for example, Jarius Monroe, and just there's so many guys just literally just genuine and love the game. So for me, like it was kind of just a no brainer. So
Yeah,
but
and I'd actually seen that your dad, spent time in coaching, and that was kind of going to be one of my questions for you. Having a dad as a coach, do you feel like that kind of helps you as a player and perhaps more on or off the field? And just kind of talk me through that.
yeah, no, I definitely feel like it helps me both on and off the field, especially on the field, because I feel like I'm always getting. He's always going to tell me not necessarily what I need to hear, but he's going to tell me the truth as a coach, and he tells me like what I need to get to that next level. So like for example, he would always like after every game, he would kind of just have a whole like page of like every play, what I did wrong right here, what I could have did different, like, and it's like okay, we're great, but like also just off the field where he's able to just be a dad and just be there, like it's kind of hard, he's always coaching and stuff, but being able to flip that switch on and off too. So, I love my parents. They're both my role models. I mean, seeing how much they take it on and stuff makes me, I don't know, it's just inspiring. But I could talk a lot about them. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, it helps too when your dad is a former player as well. Was he also a defensive back? And if so, was that kind of always that position for you?
yeah, well, so he actually played a little bit of wide receiver in
Okay.
college, but I think he ended up being a true defensive back. I think that's where his love falls. But honestly, yeah, and then ever since then, like, I played offense and stuff in high school. Like, I played running back. I played quarterback, but it wasn't like a true
Yeah.
quarterback. I was running the read option every play. Like, I had one throw and it was incomplete. So I'm not gonna say quarterback, but other than that, though, like, nah, yeah, I've kind of always been intrigued by the defensive side. I feel like corner is truly just like it's just like an art, especially going against good wide receivers. Like it's just that dynamic route running itself is just truly beautiful. So like being able to go against it is just amazing. So that's kind of where I fell in love with it.
I remember talking with you at Tulane's Media Day last year and just hearing immediately, your love for that position and talking me through all those different coverages. And I had kind of asked you, if you had spent time at the slot over in Northwestern and, you had played on the inside quite a bit. And I know Tulane brought you in on a lot of dime personnel situations. You're to me just a very versatile player, but what have you kind of learned about yourself and how have you grown those coverage skills throughout these different programs?
Oh yeah. So especially this year, I think one thing I really learned is this year we had a lot of good depth. Like we had a lot of great talent. Like for example, we had Jarius Monroe, Lance Robinson, then we had Cam Pettisville, and then I can't forget some of the safeties. Like we had DJ Douglas, Slim Desvaney. So like really just being able to see like I think the benefit to having so many good people is we're all able to take breaks off when we need. So we're all able to stay fresh and able to kind of fit in. And like one thing was like we was always out there doing like for example, me and Lance were just always like I'll see him. He's like, watch me on this play. Like, let me know if you see anything, and same vice versa. Like, if I was in, so just communicating, being able to, especially with players that kind of understand that level, because at that time we're all a little bit older. So like, just the chemistry and all of that, just really going out there and kind of being able to get a jump on guys, kind of just understanding what they're going to do before they do it. Like that's the example. That's what a lot of look. They had a lot of picks, Jarius and Lance Robinson. So like, for example, just like the film study and all that stuff being able to pick each other's brain, that stuff is really huge. So
Hey, I actually, that was one of my questions for you is I would see you on the sideline a lot of the time with those guys and almost kind of simulating those types of things. So to hear that you're almost kind of doing that scouting in game and what were you kind of, let's, for example, you were watching the guy that Lance was covering. I know every guy is different, but he plays a little more in that off coverage type situation. So, how was those kind of conversations with him?
Yeah. So, for example, so a lot of the times we were kind of looking at like tendencies of certain players. Like, 'cause obviously, we seen some things in film. So, like, if he would play off coverage on like certain down, I would be thinking of like, for example, like where the sticks would be, or so like where they need to get the first down. All right, depending on his leverage outside or on top of the numbers or below the numbers, then he might run this certain route. So then, like for example, one thing like I'm this is all credit to Lance. Like for example, if you think about it, the Ole Miss route. Remember when 19 was in the boundary he was like I think he was at the top of the number. No, he was at the bottom of the
Yeah.
numbers and he ran the dig and Lance literally knew the route. It's just like it's stuff that we had like talked about just like all week, just like it's literally the preparation. That's just the credit to this team and just the knowledge. And that's literally another reason like I wanted to come to the school. I wanted to play against new talent. I've been in Northwestern for 5 years. I play a lot of good teams, a lot of Big Ten teams. So I was like, all right, let me go somewhere closer, learn from some other people too, because that's the biggest thing about football is the opportunity to learn from any and everybody. So that's one thing I think is really huge.
And I think it's really important, especially at that cornerback role, just, with the one-on-one nature of it and having to, react to the other team, play backwards. There are going to be times where you are going to get burned. And it's just so important, I think, to have teammates not only to help pick you up on the sideline, but to be able to really talk things out with one another. I just feel like that really cultivates true mental toughness in you guys.
Yeah, I
So
definitely agree.
yeah. So, and I know that you were come in a little bit on a dime personnel type situation. So, what would that kind of be like in terms of responsibility for you in those situations?
Typically, in dime personnel, it depends. If it's like a third down, the majority of the time we might be in man coverage. So typically, that's either I'm typically going to the field, and then I think Lance would go inside too sometimes, and then J-Bo would stay to the boundary. So that just allows us to be able to kind of match up personnel wise. Which, for example, like the Rice game, we did really well. I'm trying to think. It was a lot of games we could kind of point that out too, because it's a successful season. But just for example, I was just trying to think of some moments. But necessarily, I would move to the field, kind of cover because most of the time we're all press coverage. So we're getting hands on and we're utilizing our speed or we're utilizing our length and our press coverage, which basically you can tell J Will's really good about it too. So like those are the tools right there, for example. So like just really credit to the coaches as well for knowing how to use us, definitely just put us in the right positions because this was the whole team effort. Can't just point it at one person. So but absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It is interesting though that you say, you guys really worked on your press coverage skills because the year prior to you coming over here, Tulane primarily played zone defense, talking with Lance on that last episode and just really how a lot of that defense changed. But coming over from is it the Big Ten that Northwestern is in?
Yeah, they're in the Big
Yeah.
Ten.
I know, again, we talked over the summer about you having kind of those press coverage skills coming over from that situation. So was that something that when this team started playing a little more man heavy, you were able to kind of help these guys learn some of those techniques?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely because I know one thing we used to play a lot of cover four and just base cover man and orange double help in the Big Ten on third downs because a lot of times you're literally betting on your rush and you're just letting the corners do whatever. But yeah, I mean when I got here, I feel like I had a lot of experience with it. So I mean I just wasn't necessarily as like shy. Well, I'm gonna say it like this because normally when you like do one-on-ones, you go like one off coverage, one press coverage, and Coach JJ he lets us kind of do whatever. So I take as many press reps as I can because I feel
Yeah.
like that's where I'm most comfortable at too. But you also got to work on your weaknesses. But for example, like me and J-Bo had talks about it all the time, just about like press, and I feel like J-Bo's one of the best press corners I've seen in a long time. It's for Lance too because Lance has incredible feet. So like that, just kind of being able to learn from each other and kind of talk about those things, and then getting confident with it throughout the season. Because I know one thing is like when I first got here in the spring, I kind of got my feet wet, and then as we got into the summer, we all started getting our feet wet, and that led into the season. So yeah.
Yeah, and just another thing that stuck out with the man coverage came a lot of ball skills coming out from you guys. And looking back at your time at Northwestern, I know you had 13 pass breakups in your last year there, but even though you weren't a starter over at Tulane, you still had four, including one in that military bowl in your limited time. I remember one, you talked about that Rice game. It was a third down pass breakup, which is really always important in those moments. And so just talk about your ball skills and really what you see in those moments and how you're able to close on those and affect the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I credit a lot of that to just, honestly just film study, technique, and I guess my God-given ability. I can't thank nobody but Jesus Christ for that one. But no, I think honestly, just especially like for example, the Ole Miss game, like early in the season, like I love those games where you kind of have that chip on your shoulder where you feel like you're not going to win. That just I feel like everybody just plays better in those games. I've played in so many games like that at Northwestern where we've been the underdog. Nobody even knows who Northwestern is most of the time. But still, I mean, for example, like that Ole Miss game. I remember I went to the boundary and I had like two pass breakups on one of their top wide receivers at the time, number 19. I was like, bro, this is who we are. Like I credit myself like in personal like one-on-one coverages. I feel like that's like it's either me or you can't lose. And that mentality is something that was on this team, like that was already, it just got amplified the more we played. So I mean, I feel like I don't know, that's I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think, a combo of that mentality and, like you said, that film study. And, we hear people talk about film study all the time, but in those situations, are you paying more attention to the tendencies of the wide receiver off the line of scrimmage or how they declare their routes? Or, for example, number 19 in that Ole Miss game, doing that film study, how did that kind of help you put yourself in that position?
Yeah, so one thing I learned about number 19 early on is he's a speed release guy. He likes to try to beat guys with speed. So one thing Coach JJ even highlighted is we're gonna take a 45 cutoff angle. And that's one thing because I pride myself like I'm fast. If you want to run, we can run. I don't mind that. So I knew like at certain tendencies he's gonna get into the boundary, he's gonna get to the top of the numbers, and he's gonna do a speed release. And he did the speed release two times. Two times I got a pass breakup. The other one was like throw in the end zone. And then there was another play that I can't remember. He had a good catch. Credit to him later on in the game, but that's football.
Yeah.
but still though, it's like I don't know. That's just like I said, it goes back to film study and kind of like once you get in the game, I feel like it's only so many moves you can do realistically because like I said, there's pass rush and there's so many things. It's like it gets cut down and it's not highlighted as much like 101s in practice where you could do all the hooping and howling, but no, it's still good. But nah, that's just I guess film study and obviously talking to my teammates because you gotta think they were covering them the whole game too. So we're sitting there getting feedback. Like I'm like literally talking to Jay, but what you think about 19 right now? He's like, oh, I'm getting hands on him. He's running the speed release. Like the third down. Look, you gotta expect outside release or expect inside release, depending on the dig. Like I don't know. That's literally the talks we were having. So it was just literally just bouncing off us. But
Again, I would just spend so much time really standing behind you guys just because it really was fascinating to watch you guys really kind of intercoach one another. And so you have that film study aspect, but that to me, you have to be extremely mentally tough to play corner. As we said, you're going to get burned sometimes. And, one of the games that you really had to come in and play was against North Texas. I remember Jarius Monroe
yeah,
got hurt and their offense started off really strong. They had something like 4 touchdowns on their first couple of possessions, and Tulane ends up winning that game. But being that real-time game action for you, and then having to kind of watch the offense drive down the field, where do you really kind of find that mental toughness to just keep pushing through those drives, and how that game kind of went for you?
yeah. I mean, like you said, it literally falls on that cornerback mentality. Like you literally have to have a like one play done mentality, whether it's good or bad. Like you got to keep fighting. Like that's literally just. I feel like that's a bigger translation to just life in general because like you can't let one day halt your next day because if you're thinking about the past, you're not gonna be able to move on and be in the present. If you're thinking about the future, you're gonna start getting emotional because you're like, oh, what if I can't get it? So you literally have to live in the present. That all falls down to that. So it really, like in football, like that's more of an opportunity to really kind of enact that in a more present time sense because you're literally doing it in the game. So I feel like that shows more mental toughness and shows the age of the team and the culture, which is that's really I feel like the deeper meaning of what it is. So
100%. And I feel like the culture of this last year's team just really solidified in the way you all came together for the Military Bowl and just really supporting each other through that. And, for you, again, that was an opportunity for you to go out there and, you had a pass breakup there. You were the third leading tackler. And, what was just kind of the importance of playing in that matchup for you?
For me, so I know people have been talking the whole week. They were like, "Oh, we're going to Washington D.C. and it's going to be cold." And I was at Northwestern for 5 years, so I was like, "Bro, this is an opportunity to really show like my mentality. Like I was going to go out there, like sleeves on. It's going to rain. I'm just going to be cold, and I'm just going to play football, like and have fun. Like so for me, I was just like, I can't wait to go out there. 'Cause I knew it was going to rain, and it kind of like made me feel like a kid again. Especially, and we're going against Virginia Tech, and we're Tulane. So people already, you know how that goes. People are already saying what they're gonna say. So this is just more opportunity for me to play. And I've been talking to J-Bo all week, and he was just like, man, just do you, man. Like you still just go crazy. I was like, bro, I got you. Like I just football at the end of the day. I'm gonna have fun. And that's literally what I went out there and did. I took it one play at a time, like every play. I was yapping a little bit, but it's all love at the end of the day. I was talking to the sideline. Feel like it makes it a little bit fun. But no, honestly, I just feel like it's an opportunity just to showcase, kind of what our secondary was the whole year. So we had to kind of put a stamp on that. Like that wasn't gonna be the reason, but you know.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, is just, sometimes we get so wrapped up in the grand scheme of things that you just forget that football is, a game that you grew up loving. And sometimes it is just fun to just want to go out there and play football for, football's sake. And yeah, even though there were all those coaching turnarounds and changes that week, what the defensive coordinator, Rob Green, he was one of your guys' coaches in the secondary all year and primarily would hold a lot of those meetings with you guys on the sideline. And so what was that kind of like seeing him as the defensive coordinator? And did it really help your guys' group really just understanding him as a coach?
Yeah, no, I absolutely I love Coach Green. I mean, I've always wanted to run through a wall for him since I met him. So just seeing him get that DC role, and I literally told him that week. That was another reason I went into that week. I was like, bro, I'm gonna give you everything I got. Whether we win or lose, like I'm literally playing for you because this is an opportunity where you can get highlighted, and if we win, you get to shine. Like I don't necessarily need like I want you to like I don't know. I want nothing but the best for that man. Like he's true, a genuine a coach, and then for example, like you said, he was in the secondary. So him being with us all year and kind of being with us those ups and downs already, like it's nothing. It was nothing but like love for him. So just like when he got that position, we literally just wanted to play our hearts out for him. So
Yeah, and even though the score didn't really dictate it at the end with the rain really just getting out of control, it just felt like again the fight never really quit in you guys, and just the mental toughness of this team and the identity of them, and kind of coming in like you said, you saw that culture the year prior, and then really having a chance to live in it. And sometimes I think it is important in life, things don't go well. Like you said, relating playing cornerback to life. I mean, it's very true that you're not going to have great days, and sometimes games aren't going to go the way that you want. But, when I think of culture and legacy, I just think of, more of that brotherhood aspect and learning kind of about yourselves throughout that process. I mean, was there anything new that you learned about yourself as a player throughout this last season and towards the end of things?
um I knew that. I kind of learned that I could play anywhere they need me. I'm very like malleable. I don't necessarily have to be a starter as much as I was a starter at Northwestern. But when you come here, you have talent. It's not necessarily about starting; it's about putting people in the best positions to win. So that's one thing I learned. Just more maturity, which is kind of especially taking that next step into the NFL. Like I'm willing to play whatever and do whatever to make a team. So that I just want to show my ability and my God-given ability, and I mean that's going to happen. So, but no, I just learned this also just really just trust the scheme of things, trust your coaches. It's a big game plan, and you just got to play it. So it's all fun at the end of the day. Like you said earlier, it's just football. We've been playing it since we were kids. They can't let it blow it up to more than it really is. You put more stress than you really need on yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And, I was kind of thinking to ask you about your versatility to other positions. And, you just kind of answer both questions in one, too, where it's not just, the ability to play different positions, but some guys get so wrapped up in being the starter. And, if you have to come off the bench, just not really being that checked in. And it really has just continued to stick out to me last year that it didn't matter the situation. Whenever you came in, you were ready to play in that situation. And that mentality is just super important. And, with Pro Day coming up next week, have you kind of been working by yourself this off season, or what really has that process been like for you preparing for Pro Day?
Yeah, so I'm actually with the USS Sports Management, but no, we kind of created a program with Coach Hester and my team, so that we've been following. And then obviously I met the new strength staff here, Rusty. I absolutely love them. So I just going in the weight room, kind of being able to follow that plan that I already had, and then being able to talk to them about some things. Like literally, I had everything here. I was still at New Orleans. I was still able to come to practice, see the guys, talk to Coach Summerall, like literally, pick their brains still. So literally, I feel like for me, I had the best of both worlds. So I was still able to go to church too. I'm still in grad school, but honestly, like that's really good school work. I mean, can't mind that. But honestly, other than that, like I feel like I wasn't at a disadvantage. Or if anything, I had everything that I needed and everything that God wanted me to have at that moment. So
Awesome. And are there any drills in particular? I know the 40 is more important for you than it is for one of the defensive linemen participating in that. And is that something that you've had to really work on? Or I think you had a track background, if I'm correct. Do you feel like that kind of helps you oddly in this full circle way a few years later, learning how to do a non-football skill essentially on the field?
yeah. I definitely feel like it does. I ran a 47.53 in high school in the 400. So no, but I feel like all of that's genetics too. But no, credit to the strength program that Coach Hester had us on last year. All the process, all the work I've ever put in my life. So I mean, I feel like it's all gonna come to culmination. But it's gonna be good though. I mean, I'm just excited to do it. Like somebody told me, it's not waiting because I've been preparing the whole time. So.
Yeah, and just kind of that last feeling, just, the last time you guys were at Yeoman Stadium, obviously things didn't go that well. And then you had the Military Bowl and you weren't able to, play. Jarius wasn't playing in that game. So, what has that kind of feeling like, just being able to be on Yeoman Stadium one last time with all of your guys at that defensive back room?
Oh no, it's going to be exciting. I know we've been talking about it all week. As people are slowly getting in, it's just going to be. I feel like it's going to be very exhilarating. I know it's going to be. The lights are going to be on us just to go out there and do what we normally do. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to see everybody perform because I know we're all going to give it our all, and everybody deserves this moment. So it's just it's beautiful to be a part because people have had beautiful careers, and this is the start of the many people's next chapter. So that's just what I'm excited about.
It's easy to hear a promo in the middle of a podcast and think, of course they like this product, they're paid to. Well, if you know me at all, then you know two things. One, I'm truthful, almost to a fault. And two, if I were in it for the money, I would certainly be doing something else. So believe me when I say that I love Blue Oak Barbecue. The food, the drinks, the people, the location, yes, all of that. Blue Oak Barbecue has a great selection of your favorites from the smoker, fantastic sides, as I always say, awesome bar specials each and every week. Go check them out. Blue Oak Barbecue, located at 900 North Carrollton here in New Orleans, or visit them online at blueoakbarbecue.com. And again, if you are in New Orleans and do head over there, I will go over the specials again as the week goes on. Today is a redfish roll special on Fridays. Saturdays, you have your 1/2 jerk chicken. Sunday, you have your full English breakfast, red beans and rice on Monday, as always. There are pimientos rellenos, which is a brisket stuffed pepper on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, you got your brisket Reuben. Thursdays, you got your barbecue baked potato. You truly have a new thing every time that you go over there. And as I said, you always have a great drink to go with it at Blue Oak Barbecue. All right, y'all. Again, that was cornerback AJ Hampton from Tulane. And just another one of these guys that he's actually one of the newer guys. So every player that I've had so far on Jarius Monroe, Sincere Haynesworth, Lance Robinson, they've all been there. Lance and Sincere every year since I've been the sideline reporter starting in 2021. Jarius came over in the Cotton Bowl year, but this last season was the only season that I had really been around AJ Hampton. But when Tulane had their media day over the summer before the season started, I took it as an opportunity to get to know some of the new guys that were on the team. And the first guy I sat down with was AJ Hampton. And I actually didn't really have a plan at all to interview guys. It just was a very spur of the moment thing. But I just sat down with him. I continue to say defensive backs. I just speak their language very quickly. And so we really just got in to talking about things. But I think it's really important to hear from these guys that, perhaps aren't the starting names that you're used to seeing all the time. But looking at the NFL and how rosters fill out, it doesn't always matter, who played what amount of snaps in college. Obviously, puts you in a different perception, but just kind of wrapping things up with him after the interview, just going over the competition that he played while he was over at Northwestern. He had 8 tackles against Ohio State in 2020 when they had Justin Fields, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and in the 2019 year as well, playing these types of teams in the Big Ten. And that's where he learned his, press coverage skills. And so it's easier said than done for cornerbacks to come in off the bench and be ready to go in game situations, especially just with the mental attitude that it requires. And especially with, that attitude of, no one can, I can cover everyone. No one can get past me. It's kind of necessary at that role. It's oftentimes difficult for guys that might be used to kind of being that big man to step back and be a role player. But just hearing again that, he would have these almost sideline meetings with Lance Robinson and Jarius Monroe, it was something that I had picked up on throughout the season. I reported on it in my sideline reports, just that they were kind of going over things. But to hear that, he would be kind of scouting for one of those cornerbacks on a specific play, that they would go over it afterwards. I mean, that is so valuable to have in your defensive back room. And I look up these guys. Obviously, I get to know them as people, but you don't go over someone's background resume when you're just getting to know them as people in the settings that I do, on the sidelines. And so looking into him, I'd known that his dad was a coach, but I could tell in that first talk that we had that, he talks a little bit like the son of a coach. And I felt that way with Devin Deal as well, who is from that kind of coaching tree where just the language of football is so seamlessly spoken from them. And it's just so natural in that aspect. But to see that also translates to when he's not even in the game, being that valuable of a teammate to these guys, and to be able to come in, speak to specific moments in film study that, at this point are months past us at this point. A lot of these cornerbacks that I've had on, I've talked with them about attitude, mentality, potentially being one of those more versatile players, because that's just the reality and the nature of the NFL. You go to a different school, different system, just thinking back to Lance Robinson, he was going to play safety in the 21 year before Larry Brooks got healthy again. And so he went over to corner. And that season that followed that, there was all of this shuffling where, Macon Clark had previously played safety. Jaden Kennedy had played nickel the year prior, but they moved him over to cornerback before he went down. Jarius Monroe comes in. All that to say, these guys can be playing a different position every single year in college. And so they might have the skill set that is perhaps not tapped into as much, where, as we kind of said, he would come in during games, but he has all of this tape from Northwestern. And I think that just really allows guys to relax. When you have that tape, when you have that proven ability to match up against these guys especially in those press coverage situations, because that's really the skills that you're going to need to be able to translate over to the NFL. And then just having that ability to then relax and just enjoy football for the sake of football. It just, it becomes so serious, especially at this time of the process for these guys. And I'm not diminishing how serious and important it is, but oftentimes I think it does just kind of get lost that, this is a game that these guys grew up loving a lot of the time. And it's nice to see that even though he's in the middle of this process where if Tulane's pro day is this Tuesday, March 26th, he's in the process of potentially going on to the next level, and just talking about how enjoyable it is to just be able to have fun playing football. And, yes, there are drills coming up, but, feeling like he is confident in his abilities and just excited to get out there and be with his teammates again. Now, in breaking down kind of previous previews for pro day, I just have talked about the familiarity of campus and really just allowing guys to be themselves. To me, AJ Hampton has always just been himself. Every day that I've gotten to know him, I've learned a lot about football just in talking with him, but I've learned a lot through these guys about being great people. And, it just seems it's so natural for these guys, AJ earlier, just comparing playing cornerback in the highs and lows to the highs and lows of life. It's just such enriched conversations talking with these guys, and really they just graduate as real great young men. And he's a great example of that. His attitude, it just could not be better. And I continue to say, really looking forward to covering these guys this upcoming Tuesday.